update on these CBA negotiations. Now, this is what just came out about an hour ago from Alexa Philippou. So Alexa Philippou is pretty much spilling the beans, man. She stated the WNBA is exploring buying back the 16% stake they sold off in the 2022 capital raise. She stated, "I'm told that the WNBA is reviewing the league's capital."
That frustration you just heard? That's the sound of momentum dying, because while the WNBA should be riding high off a record-breaking 2024 season, we're instead watching a league eat itself from the inside. And the latest development reveals just how bad things have gotten behind closed doors. Here's what dropped about an hour before that video went live. The WNBA is now exploring buying back the 16% stake they sold off in a 2022 capital raise. That's according to Alexa Philippou, who broke the story with some critical context. She reported that rejoining the league's capital structure is standard operating procedure, nothing imminent or concrete. But it would likely be very expensive if investors even wanted to sell it back. Now, why does this matter? Because that 16% sale wasn't just a business transaction. When the WNBA sold that stake to outside investors in 2022, those investors became part owners of the league. They got a seat at the table, they got a voice in major decisions, and right now, with CBA negotiations completely stalled and a potential lockout looming, that voice might be the problem.
Standard operating procedures, nothing is imminent or concrete. I likely be very expensive if investors even wanted to sell it back. Okay, now here's my theory. Why they trying to buy this back? My theory is because whenever they sold this thing to those investors, right? Those investors became owners.
Think about the timing here. We're past the January 17th opt-out deadline. No deal has been reached. The players' union, led by Nafisa Collier, is publicly calling out the league for offering what they called a slap in the face. And suddenly, out of nowhere, the WNBA wants to buy back ownership stake from investors who've only held it for 2.5 years. That's not a coincidence. That's desperation. Here's the theory that makes the most sense. Those 16% investors are blocking the CBA deal. Think about it from their perspective. They bought into the WNBA in 2022, before Caitlin Clark, before the explosion in ratings, before sold-out arenas became the norm instead of the exception. They bought low. And now the players want a massive increase in revenue share, a salary cap that more than doubles what the league initially offered, and guaranteed contracts that would fundamentally change the league's financial structure. If you're an investor who bought in at the bottom, why would you agree to a deal that immediately cuts into your return? You'd dig in your heels and force the league to prove these ratings are sustainable before you agree to pay players like they're worth what the NBA pays their athletes.
She's done, man, and I really hope that is not the case. Let's check out some of these comments, man. One say, "I don't see any investor willing to sell their stake this early in the game." They probably would, man. Somebody said, "Let's just hope the WBPA doesn't get their way and destroy the league." Someone said, "Who would sell now? CC gonna explode. Juju coming. Nah, I'll be holding." Somebody said, "Good. It was necessary at the time, but it's virtually negligent not to buy it back." Yeah, Cathy Engelbert just like.
And that's exactly what appears to be happening. The players keep blaming the owners stay silent. And meanwhile, Cathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, is caught in the middle trying to negotiate a deal that satisfies players who want 7-figure salaries, team owners who've been losing money for years, and outside investors who want to see a return on their investment. It's a three-way standoff, and nobody's blinking. But here's where it gets worse for the players. Rebecca Lobo, ESPN analyst and WNBA legend, just went on the record with a warning that should terrify the players' union. She said she's worried the players are losing fan support. Not might lose, are losing. Present tense. During an appearance on a podcast this week, Lobo specifically called out the language players have been using during these negotiations. She said, "When a deal is presented that's over $1 million max annually and revenue share, and it's called a slap in the face, just use different word. I'm worried the players might be getting to the point where they're losing some support from the public, and I think that's been a big part of this. That's a Hall of Famer. Someone who's been in the league since day one, telling current players they're fumbling the PR battle. And she's right.
I don't know, man. I believe that's why they want her gone. But as of right now, that is just an ugly, ugly situation. So the next hottest story that is coming out of the WNBA is this Rebecca Lobo situation. So Rebecca Lobo is worried WNBA players are losing fan support. Yes, she said it. Thank you, Rebecca Lobo. She said it. When a deal, hold on, what did it say? When a deal is presented that's over $1 million max salary and revenue share is called a slap in the face, just use different words. Hold up, wait a minute. The WNBA and
look at the actual offer the players rejected. The league reportedly proposed a salary cap that would allow for a maximum salary over $1 million annually, plus revenue sharing tied directly to league performance. For context, the current max salary is around $250,000. So we're talking about quadrupling the top salary, plus giving players a percentage of revenue growth. And the players' union called that insulting. Now you can argue they deserve more. You can make a case that the WNBA's revenue explosion justifies even higher salaries. But when you publicly call a 4 times increase a slap in the face, you're not negotiating anymore. You're performing for an audience. And that audience is starting to tune out. The numbers back this up. Multiple WNBA content creators, including the one in that clip, have reported significant drops in viewership and engagement since the season ended. Videos that would have gotten hundreds of thousands of views during the Caitlin Clark rookie season are now struggling to hit 5 figures. The algorithm isn't suppressing WNBA content. The audience just isn't clicking anymore. Why? Because casual fans don't care about CBA negotiations. They don't want to hear about revenue sharing percentages or luxury tax thresholds. They want to watch basketball. They want storylines about rivalries and championships and breakout stars. And instead, they're getting Nafisa Collier going on camera saying things like, "I know how to get deals done," while no deal actually gets done.
Y'all see my channel. I can't speak for everybody else because everybody else has got a core fan base. I don't know. Maybe I pissed off CCFC. I apologize, CCFC. I'm definitely sorry for pissing y'all off. Because y'all please start back watching the channel. You know what I'm saying? I just got to keep it real. Because my numbers have shrunken. Like, I used to get numbers like many other top tier people. Like, I got 90,000 subs, bro. I should be getting top notch numbers, and it's not there. I don't know if something I said, or maybe it's what Rebecca Lobo is saying, and that is that the fanfare is dying down. Maybe I had a difference.
That quote right there, "I know how to get deals done," might be the most damaging thing Collier said during this entire process, because it positions her as an expert negotiator while simultaneously revealing that she hasn't closed the most important negotiation of her career. It comes across as arrogant without the results to back it up. And here's the thing about public negotiations: perception matters. The players think they're building public support by being vocal about their demands. But what they're actually doing is giving fans a front row seat to watch them reject offers that sound pretty good to people making $40,000 a year. The average American household income is around $75,000. When those fans hear that WNBA players turned down a deal that would pay stars over $1 million per year, plus revenue sharing, plus improved benefits, their reaction isn't solidarity, it's confusion. Because to them, that sounds like a great deal. The players' union is making a classic mistake. They're negotiating for what they think they deserve based on NBA comparisons, not what the market will currently bear. And they're doing it publicly, which means every rejection, every slap in the face comment, every social media post with "pay us" shirts gets amplified to an audience that's increasingly unsympathetic.
Audience. Like, maybe I needed the people that, the casual fans, because that's what I was, a casual fan, and I'm pretty sure a lot of subscribers are casual fans too. It goes on to say, during an appearance on a podcast, A Touch More This Week, Lobo stated, "Coming off those viral moments, fan support for players 100%, but as CBA negotiations has dragged on, Lobo believes the language used by the players has hurt their cause. definitely has. And me personally, I feel like it's more so the language that was used by Nafisa Collier, bro. When she sit down and she talk to the media and she say stuff like, I know how to get deals done. I know how to run.
Meanwhile, the clock is ticking. We're now less than 4 months away from when the 2025 season is supposed to start. Training camps need to open. Free agency needs to happen. The expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries needs to be conducted. And none of that can happen without a CBA in place. If we hit May without a deal, we're looking at a lockout. Games get canceled. Momentum from the Caitlin Clark rookie season evaporates. Casual fans who just discovered the WNBA last year forget it exists again. And all those investors who bought in during 2022, plus the new ones who might have been interested after seeing 2024's ratings, suddenly get very nervous about putting more money into a league that can't even agree on how to pay its players. That's the nightmare scenario. And right now, it's looking increasingly likely. So let's go back to that 16% buyback attempt. If the WNBA is seriously exploring buying back that stake, it means they've identified those investors as an obstacle to getting a deal done. It means internal conversations have happened where someone said, we can't move forward with these people at the table. But here's the problem. Buying back that stake would be incredibly expensive. Philippu's reporting specifically mentioned that it would likely be very expensive if investors even wanted to sell it back. Translation, those investors know they have leverage, and they're not giving up their ownership position without a massive premium.
Like, don't nobody want to hear that, bruh. Don't nobody want to hear that. We want to hear y'all got a deal done. Now y'all antagonizing the owners and doing all these different things to make people just look at you funny. Then it goes on to say some of the rhetoric I've heard from their side has been a little bit troublesome. She stated, when a deal is presented that's over $1 million max salary and revenue share, it's called a slap in the face. Just use different words. And I'm worried the players might be getting to the point where they're losing some support from the public. And I think that's been a big part all this long. So Rebecca Lobo definitely believed. She definitely believed that.
Think about what those investors paid in 2022 versus what that 16% stake is worth now. The WNBA's valuation has skyrocketed over the past 2 years. Expansion teams are selling for $50 million. Existing franchises are worth multiples of what they were valued at in 20. That 16% stake that might have cost $75 or $80 million in 2022 could be worth $200 million or more today. And the investors know it. They're not selling back at cost. They're not even selling at a modest profit. If they sell it all, they're demanding a return that reflects the league's current valuation, not the valuation when they bought in. So the WNBA is stuck. They can't afford to buy back the stake at current market rates. But they also can't get a CBA deal done with those investors blocking progress. And the players are running out of patience while simultaneously running out of public support. This is what organizational dysfunction looks like. And it's happening at the worst possible time, right when the league should be capitalizing on the biggest growth moment in its history. Here's what makes this situation particularly frustrating. Everyone involved actually wants the same thing. The players want to get paid more, the team owners want the league to succeed so their franchises become more valuable. The investors want their stake to appreciate, and the fans just want to watch good basketball. But instead of finding common ground, we're watching a three-way standoff where nobody trusts each other enough to make a deal. The players don't trust the league's financial reporting. The owners don't trust that the ratings spike is permanent, and the investors don't trust that the players won't immediately demand another renegotiation in 2 years if the league keeps growing. That lack of trust is poisoning everything, and social media is making it worse. Because every negotiation update becomes a public referendum where fans pick sides and attack anyone who disagrees. Look at what happened with that slap-in-the-face comment. Nafisa Collier and the Players' Union thought calling the offer insulting would rally public support. Instead, it triggered a backlash from fans who thought the offer sounded reasonable. Rebecca Lobo had to go on a podcast and essentially tell the players to watch their language because they're losing the PR battle. That's embarrassing for a union that's supposed to be fighting for its members. And it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how public negotiations work in the social media age. When you negotiate privately, you can be as aggressive as you want. You can walk away from offers. you can make demands that seem outrageous, because the only people in the room are the ones who understand the full context. But when you negotiate publicly, every statement gets judged by millions of people who don't have that context, and if your demands sound unreasonable to them, you lose their support. The WNBA Players Union has been negotiating like it's 1995, when unions could control the narrative through friendly media coverage. But it's 2025. Every Rees conference gets clipped and shared on social media. Every quote gets analyzed and debated. And fans have access to enough information to form their own opinions about what's fair. So when players say things like, "We know how to get deals done," while failing to actually get a deal done, fans notice the contradiction. When they reject an offer that would quadruple top salaries and call it insulting, fans wonder if they're being greedy. And when they wear pay us shirts, while the league is actively trying to negotiate higher pay, fans start to think maybe the players are more interested in performing grievance than actually solving problems. None of this is to say the players don't deserve more money. They absolutely do. The WNBA's revenue growth has been extraordinary, and players should benefit from that growth. But deserving something and successfully negotiating for it are two different things. And right now, the Players Union is failing at the negotiation part. Part of that failure is strategic. They're making demands based on what NBA players make, not on what the WNBA's actual financials can currently support. The NBA has been around for 78 years and generates $10 billion in annual revenue. The WNBA is 28 years old and generates a fraction of that. You can't compare the two leagues directly and expect the same salary structures. But part of the failure is also tactical. The Players Union is being too aggressive publicly, which is costing them fan support. They're attacking the league's financial transparency without providing their own detailed counter-proposals. They're positioning themselves as victims while rejecting offers that sound generous to most people. And they're doing all of this while the clock ticks down toward a potential lockout that would devastate the league's momentum. Meanwhile, those 16% investors are sitting back and watching the Players Union destroy its own negotiating position. Every slap-in-the-face comment makes it easier for investors to argue that the players are unreasonable. Every rejected offer makes it easier to claim the union doesn't understand business reality. And every day that passes without a deal makes it more likely that the 2025 season gets delayed or canceled, which would prove the investors were right to be cautious about the league's long-term stability. That's why the WNBA exploring a buyback of that 16% stake is such a big deal. It's an admission that those investors are blocking progress. It's a recognition that the current ownership structure isn't working. And it's a desperate attempt to remove an obstacle before that obstacle causes permanent damage. But even if the league succeeds in buying back that stake, it doesn't solve the underlying problem. The players and the league still need to agree on a CBA. They still need to bridge the gap between what players think they deserve and what the league can currently afford to pay. And they still need to do it in a way that doesn't alienate the casual fans who just discovered the WNBA last year. That's a tall order, especially when trust is this low and positions are this entrenched. So what happens next? Best case scenario, the league buys back that 16% stake, removes the investor obstacle, and suddenly has more flexibility to offer players a better deal. The Players Union accepts something close to what they've been demanding. A CBA gets signed before training camps need to open, and the 2025 season starts on time, with everyone pretending this negotiation wasn't a complete disaster. Worst case scenario, the buyback attempt fails because the investors demand too much money. The CBA negotiations remain deadlocked. We hit May without a deal. The season gets delayed, games get canceled. Momentum evaporates. Casual fans forget the WNBA exists, and we're back to the pre-Caitlin Clark era, where the league struggles for relevance, and players make poverty wages. The most likely scenario is somewhere in between. A deal gets done eventually, but not before significant damage is done to the league's reputation and fan engagement. The players get more money than the initial offer but less than they demanded. Everyone claims victory while privately acknowledging they could have handled the whole thing better. And we move forward with a CBA that nobody's truly happy with, but everyone can live with. That's how most labor negotiations end. Not with triumph, but with exhausted compromise. But here's what concerns me most about this situation. The casual fans aren't coming back easily. The people who discovered the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark's rookie season, who got excited about Angel Reese and Cameron Brink in the playoff races, Those fans aren't going to stick around through a lockout. They're not going to follow CBA negotiations. They're just going to move on to something else. And once they're gone, they're gone. You don't get a second chance to capitalize on a moment like the league had lightning in a bottle, and instead of securing the future while riding that momentum, they're letting it slip away while fighting over percentages and revenue-sharing formulas. That's the real really here. Not that players and owners can't agree on exact numbers, but that they're wasting the best opportunity the WNBA has ever had to cement itself as a major American sports league. They're letting perfect be the enemy of good. And in the process, they're proving that maybe the league isn't ready for the mainstream success everyone thought was finally within reach. So where do you stand on this? Do you think the players' union is right to hold out for a better deal, even if it risks a lockout? Or do you think they should take the offer on the table and negotiate again in a few years, once the league's financial picture is clearer? And what about those 16% investors? Should they be forced to sell back their stake, or do they have a legitimate right to protect their investment by demanding fiscal responsibility? Drop